How do guys, it's Luke at Luke's Affordable Paint Service, and in this video I'm going to show you how to use flocks and accent it with static grass. I'm also going to show you how to do quick and easy pathways and forest floor cover. Catch you in a bit. Right guys, so a video that you've been waiting for. A lot of you guys have been asking me to use my static grasses on top of flock. I've waited till I've done something like this because one, I think it works better on a dio, but two, if I was going to use static grass and flock together, this is how I'd do it for Wargames terrain, okay? I wouldn't completely use just static grass on Wargames terrain because it will get trampled and over time it will start to look a bit crappy, alright? But once you've got your flocks down and using longer grasses in areas like a tuft but using bigger areas of static grass, it adds an element of realism, but it's also your main coverage is the flock. So the static grass on top of the flock, even if it gets trampled down or comes off, it's not a problem because you've got loads of flock under there and everything to make it look natural anyway. And grass does fall and lay in weird positions naturally anyway. So as long as you've got your proper ground covering down to start with, it'll look cool even when it's had some trampling. Do you know what I mean? So that's what this video is mainly aimed at. But I am going to show you how to do quick and easy like forest pathways. I'm going to show you how I'm doing my pine forest floor because I've decided to put a forest up on top of the mountain and a nice walkway as if people are walking to a station nearby, for example. Okay, so this is it. Sit down, relax and enjoy this reasonably quick video. Catch you in a bit. Right, so first off, start by spraying your ground with watered down PVA glue. It doesn't have to be neat. You can use watered down PVA glue because you put that many layers of watered down PVA glue on, it's pointless. Okay, first on we're sprinkling the Luke's APS mid green 2-in-1. It's called 2-in-1 because it's a clump flock and a fine flock all together. So you pat it down where you want it for your clumpy areas and then you just sieve it out for your finer areas. This way you get your lovely grass flowing textures and it sort of naturally shades itself as well with its own colour from the the shading from the clump flock underneath. So once you've done that all over, you should be left with a really nice full green covering as it covers very well. So after that, what you need to do is spray it down with watered down isopropanol, and then we go straight on with some watered down PVA glue straight after that, and then we go on to the dark green colour. Now we're using the 2-in-1 dark green, and as before, all I'm going to do is sprinkle this on by hand, just to get the coarser areas, to add like weeds and underbrush, and just things, especially near like the lower where the earth drops down. So obviously we're showing signs of where there's more water, etc. And just put it down where you want it. You get some nice colours, and with these colours, the three colours in the range, the dark, the mid and the light, they all work very well together. So don't be afraid if you put a little bit too much down. When you start to tie them all together with the mid green and the light green, they blend all together very well. Then again, copy the same system again. Another spray of watered down PVA glue all over. You can use ISO again if you wish, but you don't have to because it will be very wet from before. So just keep spraying it on, and it keeps topping that glue up with it in foam. It absorbs it all and makes it great. Now with the light green, I am not going to sprinkle. I'm not going to put clumps of it on. I'm just going to sprinkle, and this ties it together. What I'm going to do with it is find the higher areas and just put it on there as if it's like where it's exposed to more sun. So I'm going to do it across the top and down the side that's facing the sun, for example, and put just a few tiny bits on like that in the other areas, and that way you get a really nice blend of all three greens and they help each other flow together. If you wanted it to be a lighter green finish, all you'd have to do is start with the mid green and then highlight with the light green rather than using dark green. Okay. Now using the forest, the pine forest floor covering, as you can see, it's like a really nice blended flock. It's all sorts of different things in there. I'm putting this down under where a few bushes might be. I'm using it just as like it brings a bit of the brown through, and it's also got like pine needles and stuff in it as well, which they act as a very nice blending flock. It's another colour. It's just a great flock to use for many different things. Now I'm going to be using, I know this is a video on flocking, but these are just some nice coloured stones that I sieve out of sharp sand, because you don't have to paint them. You can just sprinkle them on as flock as like fallen rocks, rather than getting flock all over them. You just put them on now, and then we seal them with watered down PVA glue the same as well. Then as we lock that down with more PVA glue and more spray glue, they're just going to stick there and you know, stay on there and not move. If it was for wargaming purpose, I would pipette the glue on, so spray with ISO first, water down a thicker version of the spray glue, so 50-50 with water, and then pipette that on, and then that way you're going to have rocks that are not going to come off your flock then. Right, now from doing them stones, I'll use a bit of the Micron track ballast as well, which can be found on a store, and this is just to act as smaller stones in between the rocks, that's all, and just sprinkle them around where all the other rocks are to add as smaller stones. So once you've finished sprinkling them stones on, you need to lock them in place with more watered down PVA glue. If it was for wargaming, I'd pipette a stronger mix of PVA glue on, maybe a dot or matte medium in there as well, just to take the shimmer off. But with it being a diorama, I'm not sealing it as much as I would for gaming. Okay, but if you are wargaming, pipette it on. Now while that's still wet, we're going to wash the rocks. Now this is the watered down black wash that I put on the rock face, so it's just a couple of drops of black paint in the water. And I'm just doing this so it ties some of them really pale rocks in with the rock face, because the browns and everything in them rocks are the same as what are on the rock face, so it's just to help it tie it all in. Yeah, it does add a bit of shading around the bottom of the mountain as well. But with it being so thin and everything being very wet at the moment, it does sort of thin it down and dilute it as it dries, like it does on your rock face, so you don't really notice it. And I do put another big coat on the track to help it blend in, and add some dirt on the grass, so that's what it looks like while it's wet. Now you're going to have to leave this to dry for 2 or 3 days, okay? Make sure it's completely bone dry before adding your static grass, because when you put your static grass down, we're putting PVA glue as you can see here, and then we're making like big patches for tufts and things, but when you have to hoover the static grass off, it will stick unless it's completely dry, okay? So you need to work on a dry surface. I must nail that into your head, because if you start doing this on a wet surface, the static grass is just going to stick to everywhere, and you've got no control how you put your static grass on with an applicator. It just goes where it wants, okay? So once you've got your glue down, it's like tufts. I'm using autumn and 6 and 4 mil grass from the Luke's APS range. And what that simulates like in summer when you get the longer grasses that have dried out, that's what I'm sort of going for, but because they stand up, it'll add that element of realism and the 3D-ness to it. Now put that on, get your hoover out once you've applied it to all the areas that you want, and hoover it off. If it's been a bit stubborn, you can brush it off as well, the flock's not going to come off. So just hoover that all off and then try again somewhere else, and just keep going till you're happy with the effect. You might have to hoover it up and turn it and use your applicator a couple of times till you get the full desired effect, but just keep repeating until you're happy. So as you hoover that up as well, it will move the grass a little bit, so you can actually pull it into the direction that you want in the grass to point if you wish. But what I like to do is get, once I've got the desired effect, I mean I do come at this another 2, maybe 3 times with the applicator to get the fullness and the look that I want. But once I've done that, I pat it down with the paintbrush and sort of make it so it's not all vertical and looking perfect. I mess it up a little bit and try and make it look as natural as I can with the paintbrush. Don't worry, the white glue will dry clear. Now after that I go on to spring. I don't add any more glue to them areas because they're quite still a bit showing, and I just use the spring to help blend it into my flock range a bit better, okay? And that just sort of adds blends it right down in. That's 4 and 6 mil blend again. Now with the bigger patches down on the bottom of the dial, there's not as much glue showing, so I add a little bit more around the areas. But I only use 4 mil spring on this next one, so you're getting like a drop down in height blending into the flock. Okay, but you're not using so much. Actually, it was 4 and 2 mil. I do lie. Sorry. So it's a mix of 4 and 2 mil spring static grass that's blending back into the flock, so you can hardly tell when you hoover it off. There's been a transition. It just makes it graduate a bit better. I know in nature you do get like sudden bursts of grass, it doesn't naturally blend, but when you're looking at it, it does look a bit like you've just put one layer of static grass on, and that's why it looks a bit weird. So I'll just do that so it doesn't catch your eye as much. And then I put a couple of darker green tufts on. This is autumn grass tufts at 6 mil, and these look almost identical to my flock colours. So they blend in. You can hardly tell when you look at it. You've got to really look for them. So that's just another element of long grasses close to the static grass. Okay, and that's how I add static grass to a flock surface. And once that's dry, I'll pop up a picture so you can see that as well. Now, paths are going along the top. I decided to put a forest and a pathway to show people walking across it. Now, the forest path cover is not something that I've used on camera before, but I thought best do because people have asked how to use it. And it couldn't be any simpler. Literally just pour it on, guys, and make yourself a path. This is quite small scale, and the path that I'm doing is rather small, but you could use this for a muddy path road. You could use it for anything, and same with any ballast in the range, guys. So you could use a track ballast to make a stone path exactly the same way. Pour it on, scrape it with something flat like that knife blade there, so it's nice and flat and spread out, and then it's as simple as that really. And then you fix that down with watered down glue. For diorama purpose, you could just use watered down PVA and spray it once or twice, but if it was for wargaming, what I'd do is I'd mix a stronger PVA mix and dribble that on with a pipette, so that way you're getting a solid playing surface that won't come off. Okay, maybe add a dab or two of matte medium to it so you don't get any glossy finishes. But that's how simple making a path is with the forest path colour. So there you go. Now for the forest, I'm going to be using pine forest floor covering. Perfect blend as you've seen it before on the flocking video. This is just I'm making a forest floor covering like this. Now it's better to put it on top of flocks that you've already done, because obviously the bits where you're missing and where you can see how it naturally falls in its place. I'm putting this on dry, so if I do decide to change at any point, I can brush it away and add something else. But you sort of get the coverings from underneath pulling through it as well as it falls on. It falls around the denser areas, so it gives a nicer finish on top of an already flocked floor. Then to lock that in place, just do what we did before with the watered down PVA glue, spray it and seal it, which I'll show you in the next video. So that's it, catch you in a bit. Right guys, so as you saw, pretty simple. If you do like any of the products used in this video, check my links below to my shop, and you can buy all the range from there that I've used, from the static grasses, the flocks, the ground covers, the pathway, just everything. Alright, full of stuff. Entertain yourself. Now, the pathways, I like how simple that is. Now you can do that with any of my ballasts as well, so that'll work even just on an unfinished ground. So if you wanted to put a pathway in like a stone road, so if you wanted to use the track ballast to make a stone road, you could do that, and then you could probably flock it up at the side so you get like a nice lift up. You could use it many different ways, and it's just a matter of locking it down with glue. That's in the next video when I'm doing all the, shall we say, titty-farty stuff, all the bushes, the fence work, the trees, the people, just making like scrub, as in like plant foliage going up and up down the side of the mountain sides and stuff. It will be in that video how you seal it, because I like to put it on dry. I like to get an idea of how I like it, and then if there is any sort of mistakes, or I want to move it a bit, I can just brush it off. That's the best way of working dry on things like that. Okay guys, so I'll cover that in the next video. But like I said, if you've liked it, if you want to support the channel, if you just want more modelling supplies, do check all the links below, and you can buy whatever you need, from glues, flocks, paints, whatever. Alright, down there. Catch you in a bit, and I'll see you for the next video, which will be Tuesday. See you in a bit.